Hi, everybody. It's Laura Donnelly from Dancing with Ease, Body Brain Balance. And today I'm here with the Healing Path, and I have my friend Amber here. And Amber is going to introduce herself and say her name because she's from Hawaii and she has the most beautiful name. And I'm having a moment of perfectionism, and so I don't want to bungle it up. So we have done several of these interviews, and each one, the ideal goal is for you to find something inspiring that will encourage you to step on to the path of your own healing journey. These conversations are conversations about healing, about different modalities, and ways that people have used healing in their lives, and ways that you might be inspired to use healing in your life. One of the main things is that one of the main ideas underlying this conversation is that healing starts with self-healing, and then it ripples out into the world. And when that happens, really wonderful, beautiful things happen. So I'm going to bring Amber onto the screen and also say hello to my friend Donita. So glad you could come, Donita. Hi, Amber.
Aloha. So happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Laura.
I'm so glad you could come and share what I love about your drawings is how whimsical and full of movement they are. Even the really serious ones have a lightness about them.
Yeah, it's my way of connecting with spirit. Is that we were talking just briefly. I don't know if we want to jump in right now. I'm already ready to jump in the conversation. Yeah,
jump in.
but the piece of that, really, every single one of us is born to create. That when we were born, we there's no question about it. When we were a kid, we don't even think about dancing or drawing or painting or picking up crayons or designing. It's second nature to us, and we have been socialized out of creating, right? And so it's looking at how do we reclaim that? How do we unlearn the things that we've been taught that we are not creative, or that some people are more creative than others, right? And to really tap into our own intuitive creativity. And drawings is one of the ways that I do that, and it's something about really owning, what is that creative piece? What is your creative, your contribution, really?
And for some people, it might be cooking. It might be. Actually, I found this really cool group online where people stack rocks up. And I mean, it's one of my favorite things to do, and I have rocks stacked up everywhere. But it's something beyond us, something from inside of us that wants to come out. And often I think what's interesting is we don't know how it will connect with another person.
Yeah, I think that's really that piece right there, Laura. That's two different pieces, right? There's the creating for ourselves, right? Creating just because we are inspired, that is part of our impulse to create. And I agree. It's you can cook, you can garden. My kids, they're into fishing, right? And so they make little fishing lures, or my youngest is into baking right now, and he tries to add different things in. There is drawing. When I used to teach my kids class art, because they kick out of art out of schools. I'm right. So when I would go to their classroom, I would show them a slideshow of a gazillion different things. I'd say, this is art, right? This chair that I'm sitting in was in somebody's brain before it became a chair, right? This mug, was someone thought about this mug before they created this shirt I'm wearing, the jewelry, my hair products, my rings, the home, architecture is art, everything is art. It was we start to really look everything is. So I was now looking at there's this creative side, which you were talking about, what do we feel inspired to create? Do I want to pot a plant? Do I want to, I don't know, whatever you want to do, build a sandcastle? It's all art, right? And then there's for your own self-pleasure, right? It just to do it because it makes you happy is a good enough reason. However, most of us start to like get that confused with, oh, will other people like it? Oh, will other people buy it? Oh, is that this, do other people think it's valuable? Right. And that's like two totally different things. Right. And when we get stuck into the creativity as productivity, creativity as market, creativity is something that we have to offer, that there has to be like some sort of return in the investment. Like that's when it starts to feel like, yeah, right. So it's looking at like, what is that thing that's creative for you? And then, yes, if you're bringing your creativity to market, that's like a whole other conversation, something different.
Right. But if you just do your creativity and people see it, like in your house, how you make your house, put your furniture, then if that sets people at ease when they come into your house, they're not really thinking about that, but they come in and they go, oh, wow, this is so nice. I love this chair or that painting or whatever you have in your house. Environment. You created the environment, which makes people comfortable. I mean, the same thing with dancing is like once you try to make a living at dancing, it changes the whole piece of moving for the sake of movement. And I think that all the best art that I really like, but it's the best if I like it. No, I think that it starts from this place of bringing something into the physical world. Whether it's an idea, like you said, an idea for a mug or an idea for some jewelry, or just an idea, and it comes into form. And then I think that piece is really healing for the person who makes the art.
Yeah, there's here in Hawaii, like we really believe in intention, right? That like whatever we create, that we put our energy into it. That if I'm making a lei, like a flower lei, like every flower that I sew in or that I put in, it's like I'm putting my love into that lei so that when I gift the lei, it holds all the energy of that love. And it's the same thing with anything that we create, right? If I think about, there's I'm trying to think of the, like Water for Chocolate, right? That famous movie or that book where the woman, she poured her emotions like into her food that she cooked and then served at the wedding that was supposed to be her wedding, right, to her beloved. And like people, they cried because they could feel her tears, right? So there's like this idea of that creativity has power, fun, one, just to do something for fun, right, to have that, but it also has the power to move energy, that we can, with our whatever creations, that we can share love, that we can share well, even just like thinking about like certain things that are super powerful for us, or statements that we want to make, that there's ways that we can share our truth, our wisdom in a way that's not necessarily like speaking it, right, or writing it, right? Or, even writing is a form of art, but it's like it almost like art can be like this Trojan horse that like you can get your message out in a way that people can like receive it. Like I think about like watching television shows or movies, right? Many times there'll be an underlying message underneath it, and it's like, but the art has like pulled me in, so then like I'm really receptive to the message of it. So there's that, art is definitely that path of healing as well.
Have you always identified yourself as an artist? Did you always draw, or?
No. I actually had an experience similar to most people, that I loved to create when I was a kid. I loved to draw, and I draw horses, little horses, and I would write books, like little stories. I was super into Nancy Drew and My Little Ponies. So like it was like the combination of the both. And then I remember being about second or third grade, and my teacher telling me that, because we were talking about jobs or something, and she told me like, oh, artists don't make money. That's like not a real job. And I remember thinking like, oh, okay. And I started thinking, oh, I should be a lawyer or a doctor, because like lawyers and doctors are like good, right? And then it was around that time that I started actually looking around at my drawings and comparing them to other people's drawings, and feeling like, oh, I can't make my stuff look realistic like other people. That's a thing that a lot of us do. Like we think that our art has to look a certain way in order to be art. And so I stopped. I stopped drawing. I stopped writing. And I stopped for, it's like 25 years.
Oh, wow.
It was a long time. Yeah. And, I did other things that were creative, still like I played a musical instrument, I was good at that, so in my mind, so it's like that was a path I took. And then when I had I had two babies, right? And I was going through postpartum depression, and I was in a place of like real, yeah, just like what's the point? Like why am I like why should I even get out of bed? Like all of that was coming up for me, and I was like, I need something for me. I need something. And I started thinking like what do I like to do? And I couldn't even think of anything until I was like, I used to love to draw and write when I was a kid. Like maybe I should do some of that. And like the next day in my inbox popped an invitation to a creative writing and painting class. Right. And I was like, okay, yes, I know. It's like it all aligned, but even so, even in that moment, like when it came, like served me, and I was in such a place of desperation. Even so, I was still like, oh, do I have the money to do that, right? Or like, oh, well, if I do that, then I'm taking money away from my kids or the family, and I had to like be to the point where I was so broken, where I was like, if I don't do this, like I don't know if I'm going to actually make it, right? So I ended up signing up, and yeah, it's like once I started like opening up that creative floodgate again, it was just like it got to move. And I've met so many other creatives who've had this similar experience, right? That it's like studies show that like in second grade, 95% of kids believe they're creative. By the time they're in high school, only 5%. Right? It's like we've all had experiences, or 95% of us have had experiences where we don't believe we're creative because of something that has happened in school or some sort of socialization. So, yeah, I was like, that's it. I got to tell more people about this, right? So it was like my healing creative path then became the path for others. Yeah.
Right. No, it's beautiful. It really is. It really is beautiful. And one of the things you describe, I think, is really, really powerful and true, is that we get to a place where this, whatever this is, can't go on, and I need something else. And then the something else shows up. But we're so used to keeping ourselves in a narrow place that the very first step is to take that risk to do something different, to to write, to draw, to paint, uh, to whatever it is. And the thing then is that's true is that if you take care of yourself, you have so much more to give to other people and the people you love. And
Yeah.
and when you're nourishing yourself, what I share with people a lot is that by nourishing yourself, you are teaching other people to nourish themselves.
Yeah.
It doesn't do a lot of good to say you have to take care of yourself. If I'm burning myself out, doing everything for a million people, what do they see? They see me burning myself out. So they think, oh, well, she thinks people should take care of themselves, but she doesn't take care of herself. So she must not think that,
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. I agree a gazillion %, right? It's like, I've got kids, right? And I started, well, like I mentioned, I was going through postpartum. So my youngest was a baby. And then my oldest at the time was 3. Now they're 15 and 12. Yeah. But at that time, I remember, it being really difficult for me to focus on myself and to like do something to make, because I felt like, oh, I have so much other things to do. I have these kids. I need to take care of my kids, all the things, right? And I was like, at some point I realized like when mama's not happy, ain't nobody happy. Like that, like when I am miserable, like I am like terrible mom. Like I'm just like it's like my fuse is super short. Like I it was like everything was like grating on me, right? And when I started creating time for me, then it was like, oh my gosh, there's time now for me to be able to like appreciate my kids and be with my kids. And then think the other piece was like what when you were talking about the example, like I don't want them to grow up and then to be older and to feel like, oh, I can't be me. Like, oh, I have to like give up my happiness in order to make everyone else happy. It's like, that's not what I want to teach my kids. Right. And so there was definitely sometimes I have to use motivation like that to get me going. If like thinking about myself, like if it doesn't do it, it's like, okay, well, there's my kids, right? Or there's my partner, or there's my clients, right? That will like get me moving.
So what was the first, do you remember the first drawing that you did, the first drawing exercise that kind of woke you up?
Let's see here. Coming back, it was like, I'm just gonna do whatever, right? So I just had some acrylic paint and I just threw it on a canvas, right? And just I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just like trying different colors and playing around with it. And next thing I know, it was like hours had passed. And it was like, it looked like a mess, but I just was happy, right? So I was like, that was fun, you know? And like that was the beginning. And then I started this mentorship, which was like a little bit more directed. And part of the process was actually tuning into yourself, like rewriting your story, but from like a painting perspective, from like rewriting my story. So I got to do writing, but like not like Amber as a dragon writer, you know, or like whatever I came up with, you know. It was like this super fun way to think about my life. And I remember I'd like get up early in the morning and I would write. Like I'd go to the coffee store if I was able to go and write. If not, because my husband traveled a lot at the time, so I was alone with the kids, there was like sacred nap time, right? Like nap time when they were both asleep at the same time. And whether I had 15 minutes or I had an hour, it was like, I just was like, I don't care if the dishes are piling up. I don't care if there's laundry. Like I'm just going to do my creative time. And yeah, that was kind of the beginning. And yeah, it was definitely a lot of play in the beginning, like no pressure to create anything. It was just like, I'm just going to do whatever makes me happy, period.
Yeah. I had a summer like that, and it, after about a week, I quit using forks and knives and spoons. And I'm like, you know, okay, well, this is cool with watermelon, right? You know, you can eat watermelon by hand, you know. But then I had like mashed potatoes, and I'm like, are you going to really do this? And I'm going, yes, I'm going to do this because this feels different, right? The food feels different, and it tastes different when it, you know. And I was like, it's a good thing I'm living by myself.
That's next level. That's like that's a different conversation, is food and eating food with your
But then I got into the different textures of food, right? And so then I'm thinking, well, you know, this is soft and this is hard and this is cold and this is warm and this, you know, and it was a way in to looking at the world a different way. So I think that you can use any media, you know, could be like the person who made your beautiful earrings. Obviously she's using stones, and is that metal on the bottom, or?
Yeah, it's actually, these are shells and wood.
And wood.
Yeah,
see, it's so beautiful. And so those are the things that were speaking to her on the day she made that. And sometimes I do like found object collages, and then I stick things together, and I have no idea what's going to happen, and I just let it. Well, that's what you were talking about. You just let it come out, and you're not worried about the end product. And if the end product turns into something like her jewelry that made the earrings, that's totally cool. But if it just is something that you put on your own counter and it pleases you to look at it, that's also important.
Yeah, absolutely. There's and this is one thing that when I work with artists in particular, is especially if we start to market our work, is like I encourage people, artists, to have projects just for them, and then projects for work, right? So that, like, if you're a painter, like to have a canvas that's like just you, right? It's like you're with the intention, I'm never going to sell this. I'm just going to play with this and have fun, and to always have something like that. So that you can still push those boundaries and those edges without that voice in your head saying, well, will they like it? Well, will they buy it? You know, so it's like there's freedom, like anything goes canvas. Anything goes writing, anything goes cooking, right? Yeah.
I think it's just, I don't know, I can feel stuff bubbling now, and I'm starting to think of things that I could do.
Then my work is complete. I am so glad.
Well, but see, I think that this is the thing too, is I think that these ideas, mm, they jump from one person to the other. They inspire somebody. And you don't necessarily know how it's going to inspire somebody and what they're going to do. I mean, I might be inspired to just, clean up my whole bedroom or something crazy. But it was order and change, and it's this energy that comes up, and then that's what it is you don't hang on, sorry. It's like you don't censor that creative energy. And then, because we do censor ourselves. What you were talking about too is second graders and starting to compare. Well, my cat doesn't look like that other person's cat. Theirs is better. That's self-censorship. And once that becomes a habit, then we get into this place where we forget what our basic aliveness is. So that's my finger eating thing. So funny. I was probably 28 or something, and it was just my whole body was like, it just wanted to feel these other substances that were nourishing, and then I started to do other things. I do sometimes clay, sometimes drawing. So and how do you help people find a media that works for them? Do you send them to the art store and see what appeals to you when you walk into the art store or the hobby shop? Or
Yeah, we do an experiment, right? It's like we go into experimental and play phase, right? Where it's like, okay, you're just going to try a bunch of stuff. Just try stuff and notice your energy before and after. Does it increase or does it decrease? Yeah. And like, do you feel happier? Less happier, right? There's always a critic, there's other conversations, but just like for a basic directions, like that's what I recommend, So, and then just having like heartstorming, like dumping like all the ideas that you have that have ever seemed interesting to you. So maybe it's like playing the ukulele, or maybe it is singing or dancing. Maybe it is, painting or poetry or like spoken word art, maybe it's designing clothing or jewelry, right? Gardening. Just write down all the things that seem interesting to you and just, pick one and try it. And okay, pick another one, right? So there's no, like, you don't have to pick the thing, pick the one. And that's what's so fun about being creative, is you can do lots and lots of different things. To give yourself permission to try and to play and to see what opens, because that's part of what we're doing, is like, when we have been censored, when our creative voice has been turned down, when it's been dimmed down, then we get to see, like, okay, what can we do to turn that up? So part of it is playing like this, and the other part is noticing anytime when someone says something and you want to say something back, but then you but you want to keep things nice. You want to, you just want to kind of keep things the same. Like, that's a form of you censoring yourself, right? So the creative expression is so connected to expression in general, right? So, and women in particular, we've been taught to to make things nice, to make everyone happy. And so there's like just the noticing in the very beginning. How many times is someone say something and I don't say something because I want to keep things nice, or I don't put myself out there because, right? That it's like starting to notice that the times, and not from a judgy place of like, I'm a terrible person, but like, oh, that's where I'm dimmed. There's space here for me to go up. There's space here for me to move and to express more.
Yeah. What did somebody say? It's like you put your light under a basket.
Yeah. And here in Hawaii, we talk about your bowl of light, that we're all born with a bowl of light and it beams. And throughout our life, there have been stones that have been put on top of our bowl of light, stone after stone, different experiences, things. And our job is to dump out that bowl, dump out the stones, so our light shines. Yeah. So sometimes we can't dump it. We just have to take one rock out and be like, okay, we're going to move this one for a little bit. And so maybe that rock is, okay, I'm going to try playing the ukulele, even though someone told me I could never sing or I had no musical bones in my body. I'll try it. And that's one stone out, right? So what can we do to start?
Releasing those things that hold us down.
Yeah.
And the idea that we don't have to do anything with it. My first husband, he paints. He paints a lot. He goes, what am I going to do with all these canvases? He said, I sell some of them sometimes, but I'm not making them to sell. It's a day, and I go into my studio, and I don't know what's going to happen. And I know what else he said. He said the best paintings are too easy and too fast. And I said, oh, babe, you hit the zone. That's where you want to be, He goes, but I don't feel like I did it. I just feel like the art kind of came onto the canvas magically. And I said, well, it surely would not have come onto the canvas if you hadn't been standing in front of it with your paints. So you were very important to the process. And then he said, my attic is full. My shed is full. And I said, well, if you don't want to sell them, you could paint over them. Oh, no, I can't do that.
That's so funny. He's like a creative hoarder.
Tell him that. And he didn't make them to sell. He really just made them for the process of making them, which I think is really beautiful. And then some people want to buy them, and then he will sell them if they want to buy them or something. But also I think they are representative of who he was in that moment. And I think that's why he doesn't want to paint over them. Even though he's not there, not making that kind of painting anymore, he's over here making a different kind of painting. I think the sequence and the journey is still important to him.
Yeah, so journey is super important with painting, like the journey part of the painting, or not even painting, like anything. It's like acknowledging like where we are and that we are actually progressing, whether that's in writing, whether that's in singing, whether that's in anything, because sometimes we don't see it ourselves, like how much we move. Like I noticed that like it's the same thing with my kids, right? I don't even notice they're growing because they're like with me all the time. But if I see someone else's kids, I'm like, oh, wow, time's really passed, right? So it's the same thing with our creative work. And so I also have creatives that have lots and lots of things. So one of the things that we do is we take pictures, right? Take pictures of the work, and then you can let it go, right? Or repurpose it, right? So like we've taken canvas off the stretcher bars and then, used it to cover journals, or used it to, like we've chopped it up and made it into mixed media and like bind it with another one. So it's actually kind of really empowering if you're looking, especially on your early work. If you have lots of it, then it's like using that early work and, infusing with the energy of what you're creating now. So it's like the beginner's mind with like what you're creating. So I always think that there's so many different ways you can create. Like if you look at if you just Google installation art, right, you'll see like donuts on a wall, that's considered art. Or toilet paper, like strung up, toilets, like flying wolves through the air. I mean, there's so much stuff that's considered art, right? That it's like, all right, what can I do just to be more free, and then to have my process, and then is there someone that can be served by me sharing it, by me gifting it, by me donating it,
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And to change the form of it too, because I think also when we make things, sometimes we get a little precious with the thing after it was made. And I have another friend, and he was a Fluxus artist, and their whole thing was that everything is disappearing all the time. So it wasn't supposed to become a masterpiece that people pass down through the ages. And so this idea that it is a moment in time, and I love also taking a picture of it, so that if I made a big thing, a big installation in my yard, perhaps I don't have to leave it there for years and years until it falls down. I could just take a picture of it, and then remember that I made it. So
Yeah, you can have your book of creations, right? And then it could be like, then it really is like a journey. When you're flipping through it, it becomes something that you can share, you know, with others. I definitely love, we were talking about this a little bit just even before we hit record, that piece about how we can record things, right, visually, that can hold our story is a really powerful way to record what we're doing. Yeah. Or even songs, right? Like songs will, I remember I worked with singer at one point, and she talked about how the vibrations of the songs that she used at one point in her life were different than they were now, right? And I just talked about, oh, well, it's just, it connects to different people on different parts of the path, right? So it's like it's all connected. We don't have to be like, oh, I'm not that anymore. It's like, oh no, that was like, it's like what we're turning up the switch, right? Being more bold, more us. Then it's like, oh, this is where I was at this point. Here I am a little bit more. Here I am a little bit more, right? We get different flavors of ourselves.
right, as we shift and change. I'm excited now. Do you have any projects that you
Go
want
off, go create,
to
spread, do the things, Laura. Go, yes, all the
oh, and
things that are in your mind.
things that you have started that you haven't finished? Do you ever have those kinds of things?
Oh yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, and well, one of the things that we work with, like in Women Unleashed, is about like helping actually creatives find that balance between their focused, productive doing and then their creative, intuitive knowing, so they can finish. Because I work with a lot of creatives that don't finish work, right? Or I work with women that are super focused and driven that just don't create, right? So it's like they forget that things can be fun, and they can be creative. So it's like bridging those worlds in order to help people finish, right? At the same time, like when we look at the creative cycle, like the first step of the creative cycle is like getting the energy to create, right? And so creating in that space, it isn't about finishing. It's just about energy. It's like just creating to impact your energy. So I have projects that like I have no intention of like finishing. It's just like I'm doing that for fun. And then I do have projects that, like a book that I'm writing, or I have, a painting series, or if we're just talking creativity in general, like, in my business, right? There's like a program that I'm laying out, like a content for the program. Like, yes, I want to finish those. And then what I do is I just then help weave in support and structure in order to help me finish, right, what I start. Because yeah, our creations hold energy, and so if you have a lot of things that are unfinished, then it's amazing how you can up your energy just by like wrapping up, finishing up one or two of those. And then you'll have all this energy for new things.
No, that's beautiful, and I think that's really, really a good thing for people to think about, and it's even like I try to change. Okay, like you live in Hawaii, so it's very nice there, but I live somewhere where there's seasons, so I have my summer colors and I have my winter colors, and I move my clothes in and out. Mm-hmm. But I get in this in between place where it's not really hot and not really cold, and I haven't really done my changeover. But I'm opening up say that I'll open up the winter thing and I'll take out a couple of warmer things. Then we have a hot day and I want a summer color. But when I just stop and I say, okay, I'm just going to change, and I make that change, then everything's like, whew, there's just more space when I'm not holding myself between two places by not finishing something.
Yeah, it is an energy, right? And ultimately, creativity is, we're just being receptive to whatever spirit's moving through us. That's ultimately what creativity is. It's just like just the ultimate way of expression, and being receptive and open to that space, whatever that looks like. And so if we have lots of things that aren't done, it's almost like I think of, oh, we've got someone, I don't know if you can hear that. No, oh, good. We've got great microphone then.
Yeah.
So we have someone who maybe starts something, but they don't finish it. Then it's like, okay, I think of my creations like a contract with spirit, right? So it's like, especially projects, not necessarily just creations, but like if there's a project, like a book, right? Like if I've been told, okay, I need to write this book and I can feel it, right? Then it's like, if I don't do that, then there's like this energy that's like, it's not in alignment, right? Like I've made a contract with spirit, a commitment, right? So then it's like, what can I do to finish what I start for a project? And then, yeah, it lets up the energy for like the next thing to flow through, right? It's like spirit knows, oh yeah, you're someone I can gift things to because I know that you're gonna move it along. Yeah.
It's like with dancing that you always have your performance. So you have to quit changing the piece. You have to quit rehearsing. You have to quit polishing and fixing and you have to say, okay, maybe if I do this piece again, I will make some changes. But because next week we're going to open the curtain, this is where it's finished for now. And get it on stage. But if there's other things, I think that I hear what you're saying in terms of finishing and getting distracted with new projects, but then there's no room for any more new projects because you didn't clear off the table sort of between events. So
yeah, and like there's something about like finishing and letting it be good enough, right? Because like sometimes creatives would get into that perfectionist thing where it's like it's just not quite all the way perfect, right? And so I really invite creatives to think of like, okay, what's good enough, right? That it doesn't have to be perfect. It's like what can just be good enough to move it on, good enough to let it go. And I have so many paintings that are like sitting in homes around the world that I still could be like, oh, I could like make that little line there. I could add these couple dots. Like it would never be done. It would never, never, never. So it's like, what's good enough to be done to move it forward? And I love the mantra, better done than perfect. I all the time think of that one. Better done than perfect, better done than perfect. Because I am creative and I've got lots of ideas. So I don't want to stick on one idea for like 10 years. It's like, let me just get that done so I can move to the next new ideas I have. My new one. Yeah.
Right. So if people wanted to start, how would you tell them to start today?
Oh gosh. Yeah, it just starts with your energy, right? So I'm a big fan of creating with spirit, right? So I would actually, I invite you to open up in prayer or however you connect to spirit and ask for guidance to open up to your creativity, to see the places that you're creative, and then to start the experiment. Be like, okay, what's one thing today that would be fun for me to do, right? Maybe it's just doodling, like right here while we're talking. Maybe it's planting. I just planted this pretty little plant here. I've got this little plant here. I'm going to show it to you because it's so cute, because it makes me so happy. Okay. Look at my little plant. I planted this little plant because it just made me happy, right? So it's like, oh, that's something I can create and do. So looking for, in the very beginning, you want to up your energy, right? So that's, in order to create anything, you need to have the energy to do it. So noticing what will increase your energy. So I'm a big fan of daily practice, daily doing something that makes you feel creative and fun and alive. And then yeah, once your energy starts to increase, then it's about like setting like a schedule or a structure or a plan so that you're consistent with it. Yeah. And everyone has different schedules. So that's more of an intuitive piece around that. And then once you do that, adding in the support to make sure that you have like someone like checking on you or like whatever you need to do for support to make sure that you're not like only creating when you feel inspired, because hello, that doesn't happen all the time. And some of our best stuff comes when when we don't feel like in the very beginning, but then we're kind of like get into it and it's like, oh yeah, stuff flows, right? Yeah. And then yeah, just that finishing what you start at the very end. Yeah. But start first with the energy.
Start with the energy. I love that. My friend Donita says that you have a beautiful plant. That's sweet.
Thanks, Donita. I love my plant too. It's so pretty. I love her.
And Sarah says, thank you. Thanks for sharing. She's in England. Is that fun? I love that people are all over the world.
And now our global people all over the place. Yeah.
Yes. And I have links for you all to connect with Amber in the description of the event. She has some beautiful things happening, some wonderful workshops, and she has a great little newsletter, which always she sends out with an inspiring drawing, something to make you think about your world a different way. And I just love talking to you. It's so fun for me. And to think about, now I have at least 5 projects I want to start.
Like a true creative, I'm so happy. Yes, get into the creating, the fun, the play. And yeah, if you're watching and you want to hang out more and create, like, yeah, just come to womenunleashed.com, check us out. And for the men, sorry, it is a women, it is a women group here.
It's okay.
I always say that. I know
you're inspired. Make your own group, right?
I know. I laugh because I say I have to hang out with women because I got a husband, 2 boys, a boy dog, and a boy cat. I just need to be around women, right? So that's what I say.
Get your feminine vibe on. Well, thank you, Amber. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and your love for creativity and expression. Just so beautiful. And I'm so glad you're here. And I will get you a link so you can share this with your friends. And thanks, everybody, for watching. And I'll see you soon. Take care, Donita.